Hello and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Here's what we're looking at. President Biden issues a disaster declaration for this summer's heavy floods, how you can get FEMA assistance.
What Dr. Allison Arbety's ouster means and next steps for Chicago's new top cop in our Spotlight Politics.
And a rare show of dreamlike paintings by a surrealist artist at the Art Institute of Chicago.
And now to some of today's top stories. Attorneys say more women have come forward alleging a former DuPage County OB/GYN inappropriately touched them and was regularly drunk on the job. Lawyers say the healthcare company, now Dooley Health and Care, failed to respond quickly enough to remove the doctor. In one of the lawsuits, a woman says the inappropriate touching and grooming started when she was in high school.
I just feel really bad for my previous self and that I didn't register how awful it was. And there's just been a lot of different scenarios that he put me into that are very wrong. So coming forward is just helpful to me, to these women behind me, and then anybody that this is happening to.
The state has permanently deactivated the doctor's medical license. In a statement, Dooley Health and Care says that it takes allegations of physician misconduct extremely seriously, adding, quote, Dooley vehemently denies that it knowingly allowed Dr. Cannon to engage in misconduct, and Dr. Cannon has not had any patient contact at Dooley since he departed the practice in 2020.
The word strike is on the minds of workers at Wrigley. We're not talking about strike as in balls and strikes. Unionized concession workers protested outside the park today before the final game between the Cubs and Sox in the Crosstown Classic. They are demanding a contract from the company that runs the concessions, Levy, and say they've been without one for 2 years. Now, they mentioned the fact that their Crosstown counterparts struck a deal with their concessionaire at Guaranteed Rate Field recently that pays a $20 minimum wage to non-tipped employees.
With Chicago Public School students just 5 days away from the first day of the new school year, the district is considering a $5 million contract to spend on COVID rapid tests for students and staff. The district says the agreement would allow them to shift to a fully rapid testing model versus the hybrid model of PCR testing and rapid testing it used last year, which sent home about 1 million rapid tests. Under the contract, schools would receive automatic distribution of tests at different points through the year, like holidays and spring break. Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Johnson and school CEO Pedro Martinez touted the district's education during the back-to-school bash at Crane Medical Prep High School on the west side.
Whether you are learning English, whether you are a special education student, or whether you are in advanced placement, or whether you believe that you have an opportunity in the arts or construction, that the Chicago Public Schools must be and will continue to lead the way of how we educate people.
And CPS students return to class next Monday.
Governor J.B. Pritzker held court at the State Fair on the annual Democrats' Day in Springfield. Other top Democratic public office holders like U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, Comptroller Susana Mendoza, and Treasurer Alexi Janulius had their moments as well. Pritzker used the occasion to tout Illinois' credentials as a progressive bulwark.
We're the party that stands up for workers' rights. We're the party that stands up for human rights. We're the party that stands up for civil rights and voting rights and reproductive rights.
And tomorrow is the annual Republican Day at the State Fair.
Coming up in the program, a look into an art exhibit by a 20th century surrealist painter who found her ground in Mexico.
First, Chicagoans impacted by July's heavy flooding will finally see federal relief. What you should know, that's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
To the more than 8,000 Chicagoans who reported basement flooding earlier this summer, federal relief is on the way. President Joe Biden issued a disaster declaration for Cook County. It comes more than a month after nearly 9 inches of rain flooded parts of the city, with the west side hit particularly hard. And joining us now with more are Congressman Danny Davis, a Democrat from the Austin neighborhood, and G2 Brown, a resident in the city's Austin neighborhood and board president of the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. Welcome both of you to Chicago tonight. So Congressman Davis, to the folks that were impacted on the west side in Cicero and Berwyn, what is this disaster declaration going to mean for them?
Well, it means a great deal. It means that their government is responding as they would have expected it to do, and it reinforces the fact that if you go through the steps, the processes, make your case, you get results.
And G2 Brown, what did you face in your home, and what are you looking to get out of this relief?
Well, you know, first I want to thank Congressman Davis, Mayor Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Tyra Stamps, and other elected officials who were diligent in making sure that we were able to get FEMA assistance. That was important. I will say that I had about 4 feet of water in our home. We were blessed to have some form of insurance. So while it was traumatic and you lost a lot, we're in better shape than a lot of my sisters and brothers in the Austin neighborhood. A lot of folks that we met, you know, don't have insurance, or they are not a homeowner, they're a tenant, right? And or they're underinsured. They have a policy that didn't cover what was happening. So there was really a big effort on the ground to provide, sort of like we are the leaders we've been waiting for. So I really want to thank the 1,000 strong Block Club, West Side Health Authority, Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, who came from the South Side and helped me distribute cleaning supplies, and North Austin Community Council.
So it was a group effort to get this. So are those the folks that are going to be helped, Congressman Davis? Will the folks that don't have insurance or underinsured, will they be able to tap into funds here to get mold out, to help rebuild?
Well, we suggest that if you have insurance, make use of it and try and see what you get. But if you don't, or if it doesn't cover all, then call FEMA. Make a claim, fill out a claim, give all the information that need to be given, and the sooner you do it, the sooner you'll see the result. And so just do it right now. And all of those entities came together. I mean, that's the most rewarding. All levels of government, everyone, the mayor, the governor, the county board, the aldermen, state representatives, all the people, the organizations and groups did outstanding work, and we're excited.
So good advice. Do it right now. So G2 Brown, any advice you can add on to that for folks that are watching right now that are wondering, all right, do I qualify for this, and how can I sign up?
Absolutely. I think I agree with what the congressman said. I think what's critical, though, is that this is not the first flood that we've endured in Austin, right? And so something has to be done in regards to the infrastructure to make sure that working in low-income communities are not the ones that flood. It is an environmental justice issue, right? Because when the floods happened on July 2nd, we got 2 feet, then it went down, then it came back up. And so the idea was that our sewers were opened up so that other areas would not flood. And so I think that just like, unfortunately, White Jackson, Mississippi has clean water, Black Jackson has dirty water, right?
Or was this a move by the Water Reclamation District, you're saying, to kind of mitigate the flooding, that a lot of the sewers they opened up were west side, around the west side? And that's why we saw. And I was driving through the west side that day, too, and you couldn't go under
You couldn't
viaducts.
go under viaducts. I mean, cars were floating, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that something has to be done with FEMA, with local government, around the infrastructure to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because I know I've lived in Austin since 2008. This is at least our 4th flood.
All right, well, let me ask the congressman. Here's the person you got to ask about this. So is there something bigger here to do with the infrastructure?
Well, I think there's been now a lot of attention given. There are groups forming with task forces to keep looking at what can happen or what needs to be done. And we're going to have some local ones, but experts. People have indicated that a large percentage of the housing in certain neighborhoods in Chicago are subject to flood with a heavy downpour of rain. So we will be looking into it with the people, and I think we'll come up with some solutions.
All right, well, speaking, you had a conversation with the president himself about this. What did you tell him, and how did that
I
conversation
said
go?
we need money in Illinois.
And now he's got to go down to Hawaii too. They have the issue
Yeah.
down there. So what
Well,
did
he
he
said,
say?
you know, Illinois gets money. Of course we know Illinois gets money. But I said, we need FEMA money. And
How much does this unlock? How much money in all?
I tell you, I think it's going to be a great deal because there are several thousand individuals who will be filing claims.
Absolutely.
And those claims will add up. I don't know exactly how much it's going to be, but I do know that people are very pleased and very excited to know that their government is responding.
G2 Brown, what are the big issues that your fellow neighbors in Austin are facing right now, still weeks
Absolutely.
after this?
Well, one of the things was that some folks have not been able to get the mold cut out of their basement. So what people are actually doing is managing the mold by bleaching it, right? And so what we've been doing since this started is weekly giveaways of cleaning supplies to try to help folks be able to clean their homes the best they could. But then there are also elders who can't lift a couch. And so there are also teams that are going to folks' basement and helping to clean out a lot of the materials. And so I know on my block, there are several seniors, and we had to get teams to go in their basement and help just remove. So imagine if you 2 weeks after a flood, the couch is still there, right? And then of course, disabled water tanks, disabled boilers, all of your furniture, sort of sentimental memorabilia, whether it's pictures, family heirlooms, things like that. So we lost a lot
of damage. It
yeah.
still impacts more than a month after this happened, and a lot of rain events have happened since, and so worried about this happening again. But Congressman Davis, G2 Brown, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You bet. And up next, what the recent firing of Chicago's top doc means for Mayor Johnson's agenda. So please stay with us.
Where have we been? Where are we at? Where are we going?
Essentially to be able to help anyone and everyone in the community, whether that's through academic support, social emotional learning, or just providing a safe space for youth to be able to be there.
This is the fabric of the neighborhood. You need to take care of the neighborhood. It's an ecosystem.
Mayor Brandon Johnson taps an insider to lead the police department and unceremoniously ousts Dr. Allison Arwady, the now former head of the Chicago Department of Public Health. Our Spotlight Politics team examines those moves as the mayor nears his 100th day in office. Welcome back, Heather Sharon, Paris Schutz. So, Dr. Allison Arwady fired Friday at 5 o'clock by Mayor Johnson's chief of staff, effective immediately. Paris, has there been any political fallout about this?
I don't know about political fall, but you've seen some editorials kind of criticizing, as you mentioned, the unceremonious way that this happened, a Friday evening. Apparently, Mayor Johnson didn't do it himself. His chief of staff went and did it. And folks saying, she served very admirably during COVID here, communicating every day. She was the person responsible for keeping the city safe and helping implement some of the closures and reopenings and social distancing. But then other folks say, well, Mayor Johnson said in the campaign he wasn't going to keep her. I heard from some folks close to Mayor Johnson that they were irked by the fact that, knowing that, she still tried to wage a public campaign to keep this job. You can't blame her for wanting to keep this job. This is what she does. This is what she loves. So clearly no love lost there, and clearly Brandon Johnson moving in a different direction, although I think there's some confusion as to who exactly is going to take over.
Heather, what is Arwoody's firing? What does it mean? What does it tell us about the mayor's agenda?
Well, it means that he is intent upon implementing two proposals that Mayor Lightfoot and Allison Arwoody were not behind, specifically treatment not trauma, which will expand a non-police response to 911 calls from people experiencing mental health crises, and the reopening of the public mental health clinics. So this is really a return to the status quo of politics before COVID upended everything about our lives. Allison Arwoody barely was confirmed in 2019 because she backed Mayor Lightfoot's decision to break her campaign promise to reopen those public mental health clinics. Johnson has promised to get that done, and now he's going to have to find somebody to help him do it while presiding over the ongoing pandemic. It's not over yet.
And it's clear to say the no love lost between public employee unions and Dr. Arwoody. Like the CTU, she wanted to reopen schools. They were against it at that time. And then there are other public employee unions behind this push to reopen some of these mental health clinics because they would be public employees, unionized employees, staffing those.
And Heather, you mentioned, the treatment not trauma, and Johnson apparently getting ready to move that back in. It's still not certain yet whether or not his new appointee for top cop supports that as well, and we'll come back to him shortly too.
Indeed.
Paris, Johnson's nearing his first 100 days in office. How's he doing with the governing part so far?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little slower to roll out some of the big initiatives than some of his predecessors, but one could argue, well, he's just trying to be patient to get it right. I mean, this public health move, I think it came later than many people expected. There's a lot of other positions that have yet to be filled, but the most important one we're going to get to, the police superintendent, that is filled now, and it's a consensus pick, which is very rare.
Well, and it seems like he waited until the last minute to name the next police superintendent. Heather, what are the next steps for Larry Snelling, and are they just sort of pro forma? Is this a done deal?
Well, I think it was not by mistake that Mayor Johnson stood beside Alderman Chris Taliaferro, Alderman Pete Chico, and Alderman Brian Hopkins, who are certainly sort of charter members of the more conservative pro-police caucus on the city council. And that indicates that any opposition to his nomination is not going to come from that sort of side of the political aisle. So that means that he is nearly assured confirmation, because the mayor's allies on the city council are not going to hurt the mayor by sort of rejecting such a prominent pick. So, but first, Larry Snelling is going to have to sort of go through a public hearing in front of the newly formed Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, and he's going to have to make it through those confirmation hearings, which, as Paris and I both know, can sometimes turn dicey under the best of circumstances.
Yeah, so a lot more we're going to be hearing from him as all of that rolls out. Paris, I mean, do we think he can reform the department?
Well, it seems as if, obviously reform is very important, but the more important factor here was that he was an insider. And this is something that seemed to be consensus across the political spectrum, that there was a bad taste left in everyone's mouth from David Brown, who had come here from Dallas, and everyone's saying, you know what, we need someone from within the police department, but you also need someone that's going to speed up compliance with the consent decree. And reform groups like the ACLU are hopeful. They say this is a good opportunity. We don't know exactly what Chief Snelling, or soon-to-be Chief Snelling, is going to do on this. He certainly has said the right things about it. But, the FOP praised this selection. It is very rare that you have consensus with FOP and reform groups saying, you know what, this probably was the best person. But again, it seems like the fact that it was someone from the inside, that was the main thing that they wanted to achieve.
And that they've got. So today was Governor's Day at the State Fair. Heather, tell us what J.B. Pritzker's message was to his fellow Democrats.
That they have to take it to the Republicans, and he used some salty language I cannot repeat on air here to say that the Republican Party has become the party of lies and untruths and anti-democracy. And it was a preview, really, of Governor J.B. Pritzker serving as an attack dog for President Biden and Vice President Harris as the campaign heats up into the primary season. And I think it's an indication that Pritzker is going to be a very important part of the president's re-election campaign. Not only is the convention coming here to Chicago, but Pritzker is not just going to raise money, and he's shown that he can command media attention by using that pithy language.
And meanwhile, the president himself, he's been noticeably mum on the whole indictment with his predecessor, President Trump's fourth indictment. Paris, why do you think he's been quiet about that tactical error?
Well, I don't think it's I think there's nothing the president has to gain from weighing in whatsoever, because Republicans would love to say that this is Biden trying to punish his main political opponent, and Biden has got to stay above the fray and make sure that the perception of this is still independent, with an independent Department of Justice pursuing all avenues that they can within the law. So I think the president's in a tough position. Also, I mean, Trump, as always, sucks up all the sort of media oxygen here, all these cases. These are extraordinary. Former president facing more than 90 criminal indictments. Extremely extraordinary. And Biden has, you know, the one-year anniversary of the Green Jobs bill. What was that? The Green Jobs?
Inflation
Inflation
Reduction
Reduction Act.
the
I'm sorry.
IRA, yes.
Even I can't remember that he's trying to sell, and that's getting drowned out here by all this news around Trump.
Meanwhile, Cook County Democrats met for candidate slating this week. Heather, remind us what this is and what it does.
So this is the important people of the Cook County Democratic Party getting together and picking their choices for the offices on the ballot. And really, the marquee race is going to be the push to replace State's Attorney Kim Foxx, who is not running for re-election. Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle got her pick, Clayton Harris III, over the finish line. He now has the party's, pick, which means that he is going to still face, though, a very clear challenge from Eileen O'Neill Burke, who asked that the party remain neutral in this race. She was rebuffed, and she's going to face a lot of criticism about her ties to Republicans up and down the ballot.
That same thing happened last time,
Yes,
where it was split that way, and one of the challengers, or one of the candidates at the time, asked the party to remain neutral. They did not. That's Spotlight Politics. Heather Sharon Parashutz, thanks. Up next, the Art Institute's rare show of a surrealist artist. But first, a look at the weather. Strange people occupy fantastic places in a new exhibition of art by a 20th century surrealist painter. The paintings were made by an artist well known in Mexico, but her work is rarely seen in this country. Producer Mark Vitale visited the Art Institute to explore the mysterious worlds created by Remedios Varo.
Many of the paintings express spiritual or personal transformation. They conjure images of dreams and magic.
There's absolutely an interest in occult practices, tarot, magic, but she moves her work into a very unique space that's entirely her own and is very intertextual and sort of has references to mechanical drawing and maybe to devotional art, but also to astronomy, alchemy, music.
Also, you see science and math and science fiction and literature. She was a very complex and very curious woman.
She is Remedios Varo, a Spanish-born painter who fled World War II and settled in Mexico City. The exhibition is called Science Fictions. It's a collaboration between the Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Modern Art in Mexico. We spoke with the co-curator from her home in Mexico City.
She is painting in the mid-1950s, something that looks completely out of her time. Her paintings are like a whole new universe. So it's very difficult to define her.
Varo flourished in Mexico at a time when expatriate men and women were welcomed by local artists.
It was a rather unique circumstance where women practitioners had as much voice and opportunity to show their work as their male counterparts. She's interested in alternative systems of belief, and she's interested in the efficacy of art, coming up with new ways that show how someone with a creative imagination would be able to affect social and political change.
She was concerned about the future of the planet and about the future of humanity, and thinking about female-led spirituality as a new possibility to change things.
There hasn't been a major museum exhibition of her work since 2000, so we're very excited to have this great concentration of her work here, also including her notebooks, many drawings that she made, books from her personal library, pages on which she wrote down spells and recipes.
Her work really surprises an audience that has never seen it before. You're gonna have to spend a long time in front of these paintings because they really they really trap you. They have this mystery in not only in the story, but also in the way they were made that really catches your eye and your interest.
The works entice you to look very, very closely, and they reward close looking.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Mark Vitale.
Remedios Varo died suddenly in 1963 at the age of 55. The new exhibition is called Science Fictions. It just opened at the Art Institute and will be on view until November 27th. And that's our show for this Wednesday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app, and join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. A disturbing rise in attacks on postal workers has the Letter Carriers Union calling for better protection.
And a Honduran singer reinvigorates his career with help from a hot local band. Now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe. Have a great evening.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, and proud sponsor of programming that offers advice and strategies to enhance the physical and mental well-being of fellow legal practitioners in Illinois.